Printers, if you have printers to configure or add, they'll appear here. If you've got one already set up, otherwise it'll just need to add it with the add button here. And this includes setting up, Wi-Fi printers and things like that. They'll be able to set up through here and through your network settings, things like that. It's pretty straightforward to add a printer. I'm obviously can't show you on this one because it's already set up, but I don't have another printer to set up. But this is where you would go to either configure settings on it, or like this one here, it says network printer discovered. So Linux basically just having that hooked up, having the printer that I have hooked up to the network wirelessly over the Wi-Fi network at home, it automatically found it. Basically, it's like, oh yeah, well, here's a network printer, so it knows what to do with that. So printer setup is pretty minimal these days. It used to be a really manual process, but now it's not. It's just, you either connect it to the network if it has Wi-Fi capabilities, or even if it's an old-fashioned one that doesn't have Wi-Fi capabilities and it's just plug it in directly. Generally when you do that and power it on, Linux will find it and it says, okay, here's your printer, so it's not usually the big setup process that it once upon a time used to be. So but if you do need to configure the settings for your printer, you can do that in here. Just right click on it, you can go into properties, or you can view the print queue if you've got some stuff going on. You can set it as your default printer if you have multiples, things like that. But it'll generally work pretty smoothly with printers. If you did have an issue though, maybe it wasn't being detected or whatever, you could manually go in and add with this add button, or you can hit the down arrow here to add a printer. I'm not even sure what class even is, but you can do printer settings here. You can connect something specifically. There's additional settings in here you can play around with. You can view discovered printers. If you didn't want those to show up, you could uncheck that for some reason. I don't know why you wouldn't want that to show up, but you could disable that there. But so your printer settings are generally in there. Your sound settings, likewise here, you can change which device is, your output device, and it has separate sections for output device, so that'll be speakers basically, or it could be your speakers on your monitor, your TV, whatever, if you're outputting through those. Input it will be for your microphones, things like that, or your headset or whatever. And you can change different profiles if you want. You can test your speakers, and it will test, left and right speakers and all that. You can modify your volume, the balance, left and right balance, things like that. Right in here for each individual devices, it'll allow you to do that. Over here in your input settings, you can see I have my blue snowball here. If I want to change the volume, I can do that here as well. And it's not showing up right now, but generally with this input level, I guess it is showing up a little bit. You can see like it kind of moves a little as I'm speaking here. So if you need to test your microphone to make sure that it's working, you can do that here, and it will kind of make this little gauge to show you, oh yeah, okay, you're talking, or I can, it's picking up noise or whatever, those sorts of things. In the sound section, you can change the sound volume to whatever you like, and these are all system sound settings. So for example, if you, the most common one will be this login sound here, and this is when you first start up your computer with Cinnamon. It makes a little, plays a little tune, and you can listen to each one of the tunes by hitting this little play button here if you'd like. It plays a tune, and then you can decide here on the right whether or not you want to do that. So if you don't want it to play a tune every time you start up the, the system, a little jingle, whatever, you could turn that off by actually checking this box here, and it would go away and it won't play that anymore. Set different jingles here by default, little tunes that'll play, and there are some that are toggled off by default if you don't, if you didn't want to hear them. So you can have a sound play every time you open a new window or every time you close a window, stuff like that. Lots of different options for you to play around with there if you'd like. Applications, this is no application is currently playing or recording audio. That's actually not true, but but none that you need to modify in here. So But if there was one that shows up here and you want to change its settings for about recording audio or playing audio, you could do that from here. And then finally the sound settings. And this is just talking about amplification of the audio. It says maximum volume is 100%. If you needed it for some reason to go lower or higher than that, you could adjust that here. In most cases, you probably don't need to do that. You just want to leave it at the default setting. But if there was some need for you to do that, you could adjust it beyond 100% if 100% wasn't loud enough for your system, or if you need to reduce it, maybe it was too high and you don't want it to go up that high and it's causing problems with your audio equipment or whatever. You could force that to max out at say 75% or whatever, whatever you need to do with that. So and finally, for the hardware section, we have system info here. And this is just a general look. If you need a really generalized look at the most crucial system specifications, you can do that here, including the version of Linux Mint that you are running. It says operating system is Linux Mint version 20.3 Cinnamon. The Cinnamon version, if you need the version of that. And most of this will be for like bug reporting or things like that. Maybe you're on the Linux Mint forums asking for help with a problem you have or something, and people will say, hey, what's your Cinnamon version or your Linux kernel that you're using or whatever. You can get all that information easily right here from the system info section. It shows your processor that your CPU that your computer has installed, how much memory you have on your computer, the total combined hard drive space that you have, total combined storage space on all your internal storage that you have, and what video card, graphics card, if you have one, what your, if it's an onboard video chip, it will show that information as well. What your model is and things like that. So if you don't know what kind of graphics card you have on your system, this will tell you, the model name and all that. So, and so that's where you easily can reference that quickly without getting bogged down with a bunch of other less necessary information, and you just want the most important hardware specs of what's under the hood of my system right now, and then you can just do that really quick from the system info section here. So alright, so that wraps up the hardware section. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn even more, you can find my books at bookstoread.com/Jonathan. That's books, the number 2, read.com/JONATHAN.